So on top of our 20 or 30 inches of rain, then the hurricane came and then it dumped its rain. The volume of water is like, no one here could anticipate it. It was incomprehensible. The systems, it's 1,000-year flood across multiple counties. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. I really mean 1,000-year flood. And the infrastructure was destroyed. The roads to the water main washed out. The water main itself broke. They can't even begin to fix the water main until they rebuild the road because they can't get any trucks up there.
Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place.
And today on the podcast, I'm speaking with Hannah Cole of Sunlight Tax. She is an accountant for artists who runs the program Money Bootcamp, which helps artists make filing taxes a breeze and build funds for the future. And she is an artist living in Asheville, North Carolina, where many artists, including Hannah, have been severely affected by Hurricane Helene. She's been without water and power for days, and cell phone service has only recently been restored. Since the time of the hurricane, she's been spreading the word about ways to support artists affected by the weather event via Instagram by sharing individual Venmo accounts, information on how to apply for FEMA funds, and even joining her own program, Money Bootcamp. I'm speaking with her today so that you get a firsthand account of what the situation is like in the mountains and learn how you can help. Hannah, welcome to the show under what I have to say are less than ideal circumstances.
Thank you, Patty. It's nice to see your familiar face, although I wish it was better circumstances.
So, Hannah, can you tell us, you are based in Asheville, and Asheville is experiencing the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. And I think one of the things you and I have been talking via text off and on since the hurricane happened, but I do think it would be helpful for people to, I think, one, understand exactly where Asheville is, what kind of a center for artists it is. Give us a sense of the timeline of what's happened from the hurricane to now.
Sure. Asheville is this really cool, artsy community in the southern Appalachian Mountains. If you look at a topographical map of the United States and you're looking at the highest point on the East Coast, it's around Asheville. The closest ocean to me is in South Carolina, 5 hours away near Charleston. And that's going pretty straight south. Just for your geography, Asheville is way west and it's way high. And so the Tennessee border is very close to us here. We're essentially one side of the Appalachian Mountains and they are the other side. So Dolly Parton grew up over the mountain from here.
The Smokies, right?
She's in the Great Smokies, exactly. And we're in the Blue Ridge.
Right. So that's where you are. And I guess because you're in a mountainous range, one does not normally think of hurricanes being an enormous threat.
Not at all. We look at our friends on the coast and are like, those poor guys who have to deal with hurricanes. Like they aren't a thing here. I mean, what we do get is a lot of rain after hurricane. Because if I'm no meteorologist, but what I understand is hurricanes derive their power from warm ocean water. So they tend to come up from the south and they will travel up the coast, usually because that's where the water is, right? So once they go over land, they lose their power. So, being 5 hours, the shortest distance from the coast in is 5 hours. So we're not really under threat of hurricanes here. So this, just that sort of like how come they didn't know this was coming? If that is an instinct you have to ask, like, this is not a thing that happens here. This was on no one's mental map.
Right. But what did happen is that you experienced a hurricane, right? And that's had some pretty serious consequences. And you've been posting about this online some because you've lost your life's work. You posted a picture of your studio, which from like outside the building, so you could sort of see across just what is a huge body of water now, and your studio is just completely underwater. So that seems pretty significant. Your studio is not the only one in that building, yes?
No, there's about it's between 20 and 40 other artists in my studio building. It's mostly ceramic artists, pottery being very big in this part of the country where the soil is clay. So yeah, that's a pretty like it's also just like a huge craft tradition here. So a lot of potters in there. I'm maybe one of two painters in that studio. Mostly everybody else is a ceramic artist.
Did everybody lose their work in there, or were there some people who didn't lose everything?
The building is trashed. It is, and I can send you more photos and even a video of me like kind of doing a 360. It filled to the roof line. It's a basic warehouse. Just picture warehouse, corrugated steel outside, typical warehouse look. And then inside there's sort of half, walls that go 8 feet high. A lot of the potters just have their studios open. Mine is the only one that's got walls because I'm a painter and I need to put my paintings on walls. So mine is more enclosed than others. But the water essentially filled the entire warehouse. And I have photos that show the water line inside. So it's all the way up by the roof. And what it looks like inside is exactly what happened. It looks like the building got filled up to the top with water and shaken for hours. And that's essentially, so picture any building and what's inside that happening to it, and picture what's going to be left when you're done. It's a bunch of soggy, collapsed drywall, studs on the floor. The kilns are probably the maybe salvageable, some of the kiln brick, which is expensive and worth salvaging. But we are all sort of on a big group text trying to figure out how to get in there to salvage if there's anything. It's going to be picking through a trash pile. Except that I just got an alarming text right before I got on this call, Patty, to say how toxic the mud is, because one, there's a gas plant right across the street from our studio. That's part of the reason we can't get in there, because they are controlled burning all the rest of the gas, because it's just been gas leaks. So the mud is filled with gasoline. And also there's a plastics plant on one of the rivers that was destroyed, and all its chemicals for plastic production are in the water. And apparently people have been showing up in the ER with chemical burns from the mud. So it's funny because I went in before I knew any of this. The day after the water started subsiding, I went into my studio. It was stupid and dangerous, and I should not have done it, but I did. And my feet have been burning. And I just was thinking, Hannah, you're imagining that. Hannah, this can't, this is psychosomatic. You're just upset. And then I read that text and I was like, oh shit, that's real. So yeah, it's pretty apocalyptic in there.
Wow. Oh, that I am actually speechless about that. When did the rain start, and how much rain did you get?
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to really piece it all together, because different parts of the mountains will have little microclimates and get different amounts. The highest amount of rain that happened, and this is before the hurricane hit. So I want you to understand, this is what was when the hurricane hit, and then the hurricane dumped a bunch more rain. The rain before the hurricane hit was at the max 30 inches. I know in Marshall, North Carolina, which is just a 30-minute drive north of me, they got 30 inches of rain. That's already a record. Here in Asheville, I think we got something between 10 and 20, which also just is a fuck ton. That's how much rain that is. And then the hurricane, which again, this is not a normal thing, but the hurricane apparently kind of stalled out over the mountains and stayed there for a long time. And please someone check the science, but from the articles I've been piecing together, it seems that because there was so much water there already, it was moist in a way that dry land shouldn't normally be. And so it was giving the hurricane a little more power than it normally would have. So please check that with your meteorology friends. That's my understanding, at least as of now. So on top of our 20 or 30 inches of rain, then the hurricane came and then it dumped its rain. The volume of water is like, no one here could anticipate it. It was incomprehensible. The systems, it's a 1,000-year flood across multiple counties. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. I really mean a 1,000-year flood. And the infrastructure was destroyed. The roads to the water main washed out. The water main itself broke. They can't even begin to fix the water main until they rebuild the road because they can't get any trucks up there. They can't bring in the pipes. So it's just, it's looking like a tough, it's looking like a tough situation. And I was kind of gung-ho to wait it out. And here I am like 6 days in with chemicals on my feet and I can't take a shower and feeling like, wow, this is really quite a bit harder than I thought. So.
Yeah. So you've gotten you had a lot of rain. After the hurricane stopped, did you have a sense of the amount of damage that had occurred, or did it seem like, oh, that was a bad flood, or like a bad rainstorm?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, if you let me do the long version, I'll tell you kind of how it was sinking in my head. And I think I'm pretty normal.
Yeah, please.
We got a warning from the school. School was canceled Thursday and Friday. So we're like, oh, okay, that must be bigger than normal, obviously. People in my studio were like, okay, let's lift the kilns up because there's there might be some flooding in here. So we're near the Swananoa River, which does flood. And the worst every 20 years type flood might put a couple inches of water in the building. And that's a really bad flood. And 20, 30 years ago, there was a flood where there was a little bit of water in the door of the building, right? So what we were doing was lifting kilns just to get them off the ground so their electronics wouldn't get messed with. Then it seemed that initial rain that was coming before the hurricane, it seemed more than we had expected it to be. The forecast kept going up.
Yeah.
Oh, we better lift things higher. So then everybody comes to the studio and starts getting ladders and putting things on a couple of lofts that are in the space. And there was that. And then we're kind of crossing our fingers. Everybody goes home. We sort of sit through. Then the hurricane hits. And Melissa Weiss, the potter who runs my studio building, she's got an amazing following and practice. She's she's like a mother hen, politically active, amazing human being and artist. She sort of leads us all. And she was like, I'm going to stay and work and like put as much stuff up in the studio as I can until the river gets to 8 feet. She was like watching in real time the NOAA updates about the water. She's like, 8 feet is evacuation time. So she did. And then we all go home and we sit out the storm and wake up Friday morning, and Friday morning there's no power. That's not a shock, and we're all just thinking, okay, like a day of no power. And so my family, we like took a walk to the French Broad River, which is walkable from my house. And the river had come, there's like a bunch of warehouse buildings along the river, many of which like amazing buildings and amazing artists are kind of set up in. So those buildings are along the river. Then on the non-river side of those warehouse buildings is a road, Riverside Drive. We were on the other side, the dry land side of Riverside, and Riverside, the water had come through the buildings all the way up and flooded the road and was flooding the properties on the other side of the road. And we started watching stuff. It was raging and turbulent and so much force. And we're watching shipping containers like fly down this like roiling mess of water. And we're watching just like pieces of buildings. It wasn't just furniture, Patty. It wasn't like the light unattached stuff that was going by. It was sides of buildings. So just picture the force it takes for nails to come out of walls and sides of buildings to detach from a building and go down a river, right?
I literally can't do it. I mean, I believe you, but it just feels so surreal.
Yeah, it's part of our flaw as a species. I think if you've never seen anything like it, you can't conceive it's possible. Like
Yeah.
my girls like old gymnastics daycare was there, Asheville Community Movement, and they had these vans, like transport vans for kids for after school, and they had parked them on like the dry side of the a high point dry side of the building, and we stood there and watched the water pick them up and sweep them down. I can send you that video. I have a video of it
Oh
happening.
my God.
Picnic
That's
table.
terrifying.
Oh my God, it was insane. And that was at 2 o'clock on Friday. And we stood there for an hour watching stuff. And we're seeing telephone poles get pulled by like half a building pulling on the pole until finally it falls because there's all this tension on the wires and like snap and fall into the water. I mean, Armageddon, like unreal to see. This was 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And in that 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, the river rose a foot. And I know that because we were standing on a loading dock, which was the high point in this place that is nowhere near the water normally. And the loading dock had about a foot of dry. It was like a foot from the top. And then I realized that the top was starting to get water lapping over it. And so I saw it had risen about a foot in an hour. And I was like, we got to get the fuck out of here. Like, this is not a safe place to be. This river, this is coming up more. So we got out. That was 3 o'clock on Friday. We got out of there. And then
So was that a storm surge, or because like the hurricane was over at that point, but the river was rising? Like, I just want to understand what's causing that.
Yeah, and good question. The hurricane was over at that point. Like we were starting to see blue sky again. It was that much over. But what happens, I learned the hard way. Can I say that? What happens is that all that water continues to like drain off of stuff into the rivers.
Oh, I see.
So
From the mountains.
The water doesn't crest until hours and hours after the bulk of the rain. So the water essentially keeps rising. So you've seen the hurricane, like the sky clear, but the water now is filling and filling and filling. And it's ominous because you're like, this is going higher than it's ever gone. And it is clearly going up. It is not anywhere close to like stopping. That was
Right.
the feeling. So I'm telling you what I witnessed between 2 and 3 p.m. on Friday, and the rivers crested around. Each was a little different, and I don't know why, but it was around 8 p.m. that they actually hit their peak. And then stuff kept cascading. So I watched those vans go by. I watched sides of buildings go by. And even with that, it wasn't really hitting me, the magnitude. I was like, damn, this is a lot of flooding, right? And then the next morning, Saturday morning, we drove to try to get toward the neighborhood of my studio, which is the Swananoa River on the other side of town. And I was thinking like, that is a smaller but steeper sided river. So when it goes high fast because it's just steep. It's in a narrow channel. And
Right.
we went down there and I drove down to, it's called Tunnel Road. It's like there's like a Whole Foods and a Best Buy on it. It's like strip mall-y kind of a place. And it's on the way to my studio. And the water had gone up like past the intersection all the way up to the Best Buy, to a person who knows Tunnel Road in Asheville. I went to the Best Buy, but I have a picture of the water line it was so much higher than I could have conceived it would go, that was the moment it hit me, that if it was up that high, that my studio was totaled. Like it kind of like psychologically, that was the moment that I realized. So we went around the backside. We like had to go up over the highway because the road, I was seeing lines in the distance, and some people thought they were power lines. It was so far in the distance. And the reason it was so distant is it's just river mud for, I don't know, thousands of feet. You're just looking in the distance at just this river mud and a clear, you can see where the water stopped because all this debris stops there. And in the distance, you can see that the road has just crumbled and collapsed. And there's a huge sinkhole under it. All the earth has been eroded under the road. So the roads have collapsed. You can smell gas in the air. My girls were getting lightheaded because there was so much gas in the air. So we like drove around, went over a bridge over the highway, could take some pictures sort of more aerial style from the highway of the river. And it's starting to like build in my head, like, oh shit, this is this is Armageddon. This is not like a flood. This is the worst flood we've ever had by miles. And then we went around the backside. And like I said, at that point, like we went down to try to get into my studio, and we did. We went through mud. I was completely unprepared. I was wearing sneakers and spandex, and I waded through mud and debris over collapsed drywall in my studio. It was so dangerous. And I look back at that and I'm like, what an idiot. I can't believe you did that. But I had to see it.
I mean, you didn't know.
I didn't.
Didn't you say that there was a gas leak nearby and so that it was contaminating the mud?
Yeah, so multiple gas leaks. So the gas I smelt up at the Best Buy was a gas main, but the gas I smelt at the studio is because Holston Gas, this gas company, is right across the street from my studio. And there's train tracks that go by, and the train cars like get the gas on it and transport it. And that's along the river. And we're just hearing hissing noises. Like at the studio, you could hear hissing. I wasn't connecting the dots what that hissing sound was, but that was gas leaking. And I mean, it's a propane company. So it's a propane company that just got completely flooded and all its structures are broken. So what do you think is in that mud? It's just gas everywhere. So I definitely wouldn't light a cigarette near that place.
You had your studio totaled, and so have very many other artists. In Asheville itself, it seems like just the amount of businesses that have been completely crushed under the weight of this hurricane is really, really significant. And I think before we get to what can we do, which I think is really a big part of this podcast, I want to ask you, like, what has happened since then? Because we've gone over, the last 3 days, but is it 6 days into this now? Like we're 7 days, like we're a lot further in. And I think that one of the things that is difficult to understand for anybody who's kind of outside of this is what that means. Like, what has your life been like since then? You don't have power, you don't have water. What does that mean for you?
Yeah.
And for other artists in the communities that are there?
Well, for 3 days, there wasn't even cell phone because all the cell phone towers got destroyed. And so you couldn't even tell your mom. I couldn't even tell my mom that I was alive, right? So for 3 days,
oh God,
my poor mother in Boston is watching the news and can't get in touch with me or anyone anywhere near me, right? So there's that. But we did get a little bit. They've brought in some temporary cell towers. So we have some pretty janky cell service, which is honestly, I'm very grateful for. I mean, the scale of how many people have been affected it's just shocking. I mean, when we took a walk through the River Arts, the parts that are dry enough to be on and kind of nearby, the River Arts District is a place in Asheville where probably the majority of artists have their studios. I mean, just like any one of them has put their heart and soul into developing a beautiful little space that they invite the public into. There's so much care in those businesses, and they're just rubble. They're debris by the floating down the river right now. So it's hard to even say. I think I've had people on the outside asking me what's next. Living without water and knowing that water is not coming for a long time, and just not being able to flush a toilet or be sure that my family is going to safely be able to cook and drink. That's what I'm thinking about. My brain can't even do more than that. So I think that's kind of where everyone here is where can we get water? How bad are the lines? Is gas going to run out? I think that's where people are. We're not even in the sort of reckoning or phase 1 of grief yet. We're in just how do we get lunch? How do we get a gallon of water? So, yeah.
I think one of the great ironies of floods is that one of the first things it tends to take out is fresh water. And that is exactly what you have way too much of to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I don't know how to say this, but one of the reasons that I had you on, and there are many reasons, but one of the reasons is that it's very difficult to wrap your head around the scale of what this is and how many people are affected, but also like even what a person can do, right? Because the kinds of things that you have concerns about, like you asked me how I was doing before we got on this podcast, and I was like, well, I can have a shower today, so I don't think we're talking about the same things like at all, right?
Yeah.
And like the baseline is just entirely different. And, I think but everybody I know, absolutely everybody who is listening to this, the compassion just comes out of you. You just want to be like, okay, like, what can I do to help this person? Especially because what you do is you help other people. Like your work is helping people manage their money, helping them understand their taxes, helping them understand like how they can put money away in case something like this happens. And here we are in a situation where, it's not just like one person, but an entire community that has this very urgent need. And I think one of the things that's sort of fueling my urgency around this is something that we talked about earlier, which is that when there is a tension around this, where you can fundraise, you can get money in. And when that goes away, it becomes a lot harder. So you really want to act when people are going to take action.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like there's a real urgency to this particular podcast. And I guess I want to talk about like what things you're doing to help the community and how this community that we have together can help you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've seen the news. This to me has, Hurricane Katrina and all the devastating news stories I've seen before, that suddenly I'm it. There's something kind of odd to be on this side of it. And I agree. It's becoming clear that this recovery is going to be brutal and long, years and billions. I mean, we were talking about how you think maybe the coverage even now isn't to the degree that it should be. You know better than I do. I can barely get the internet. But it's scary, the idea that people are living a normal life like 50 miles from here and life is stopped here. The idea that this attention might go away and be gone in a week when we've got 10 years of rebuilding is, it's sobering. It's definitely sobering.
Yeah.
I guess I would ask, that people check back in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, because we're still going to be dealing with this at that time for sure. But what I was saying to you is like, I'm trying to never miss an opportunity to just like put out a Venmo, somebody's GoFundMe link. I would say that even just if people are wondering where they can give money to, like, of course you can give it to the Red Cross, or honestly, I haven't seen the Red Cross here. That doesn't mean they're not here. I have no news. I don't know. But you can give it to a big organization like that. Sure. You can, I think mutual aid is absolutely fine. I've just put my own PayPal out and just promised that 100% of it I will give to people who need it. And so far I've gave it to a friend who, lives a little close to the edge and just finished a month's work on a house that she's a house painter and finished a month's work on a house that washed down the river. So is she going to get paid for that work? Probably never. Does she need that income to support her 2 kids and her mother-in-law who she takes care of who's disabled? Like, yes, very much so. So I gave the first chunk to her. The next chunk I gave to this pair of women in my studio who run a pottery business who had just gone full-time with their art, which, if you know me and my work, that's like my big celebration with people, like quitting your day job, going all in on your art.
Right.
And they had just taken this big leap and we're doing that thing. And their studio it's my studio. We share the studio. It's been destroyed. So I gave I gave $3,000 just this morning to those women because they just spent that money out of their own pocket to feed people in this community and buy hazmat suits for us to go clean out the studio. This is like, they were giving away $3,000 of their own money that they just had their business wiped out. And I was like, this can't happen. I need to at least collect enough donations to cover that. So I think if you give money to anyone in Asheville, Swannanoa, Black Mountain, the places around here, it'll be put to good use. There's no question. And I can give you a bunch of links. There's also Arts AVL is sort of a clearinghouse. I'm blanking on the name, but the Arts Council of Asheville, they have a page, artsavl.org. And there's a page called artsavl.org/aid. And it's a two-way street. It has a list of places that artists like me, like my studio mates who were affected, can apply for emergency grants. And I think anyone who could get a downloaded podcast and listen to this should go to that URL. But if you're listening from anywhere else, there's 2 buttons at the bottom to donate. And that is money that will go to artist emergency money. And that I think would be just incredibly important because, as much as I preach good business practices, I didn't have insurance on my own studio. You can't replace 20 years of your work, a lifetime of artwork. I mean, what am I going to do? Money is not that art is not replaceable. I feel like even if I got insurance money, yeah, it would be nice to turn around and give that to people who need it, but I'm never going to get those pieces back. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling. I maybe lost the thread. I haven't slept in 3 days.
No. You are absolutely not rambling. The question was, how can we help, and who needs that help? And I think part of what you're doing is answering that question. I want to add to that list that one of the things that you've been doing on Instagram is showing people how to apply for FEMA funds. I think that's so important that money exists to help people who need it. FEMA funds are emergency funds for disasters like this. And I think the other thing that we haven't talked about is that you do run a program called Money Bootcamp that helps artists, manage their money. And anytime that you are able to support other people and in their financial journey, and you have the financial freedom to help other people, that is a net benefit for the community. So the more time that you have available to give away free resources, the better it is for everyone. So if you are somebody who's listening to this and thinks, hey, I need a money boot camp in my life, this is the time to join that money boot camp, because it will change your life and it will change somebody else's as well. And I can't think of anything like a more powerful act than that.
I really appreciate that, Patty. Yeah. And I would add to that a couple of things. One, my program Money Bootcamp is unaffected by this storm. It is fully available online. You get everything when you join instantly, and it's lifetime access. Obviously, my live sessions and my one-on-one calls are on hold until I have stable internet and, stable food. If you're willing to be patient with me on those things that I normally offer for a month or 2 until I get my family settled, then I absolutely pledge us. And I think if you know me or if you know my work, you know that I make good on my promises, but that I will deliver, with gratitude and excellence when I'm on my feet again. And also 2025, I mean, God, I can hardly even think about something else in the world right now, but in 2025, there are going to be a lot of tax law changes. And part of Money Bootcamp is that I guarantee you a year's worth of all the info you need about tax law changes that affect you. And there will be many in 2025 because that pass-through deduction is expiring and we don't know if it'll get renewed or changed. Kamala Harris is proposing a new newborn tax credit and an expanded child tax credit, and also a $50,000. I don't know the structure if it's a deduction or a credit, but for startup expenses for businesses. And that's going to include people like us, artists like us. So those are some of the tax changes on the horizon. And they're coming, and
I 100% want her to win.
Yeah,
I got wind of that $50,000 promise for startups or small businesses, and I was like, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I want it. So,
absolutely. Oh my gosh. And also, like, let me tell you, as a person who is now relying on FEMA, Trump cutting FEMA funding when he was in office is like actually affecting my life right now. And I'm like, there's many reasons I don't want him in office, but I'm really personally feeling one of them right now.
there are many reasons that I do not want him in office as well. But certainly there are some that are more acute than others right now. All right. While I was listening to this, I did have an idea, and this is my personal pledge to you to check in with people in this area 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9, 12 months. And what I am going to do is I'm going to add a check-in on my podcast that happens every quarter for Asheville, for Money Boot Camp, Hannah Cole, and Sunlight Tax, so that we all have the reminder that artists are still affected, even though they are out of the news cycle, and that we still need to support them.
I appreciate that so much. And I want to add that, the way that I'm planning on spending my time in the coming months, I have to say, as soon as I have like food and water for my family, which I will admit to you is priority number one. But
no admission there. That's like, that should not be a secret.
I care about my daughters getting fed. But the thing that I want to say this, if you don't mind permitting me a couple minutes to spit out
absolutely
this thought. What I instantly want to do, what my every instinct was to do, was to like come into this wonderful Center for Craft, which has generously allowed me the space to be here and to work during this disaster, because they know this is what I do. And they've allowed me to be in here so I could make content about applying for grant aid from FEMA and applying for emergency unemployment and all those things that people like me and like the artists in my studio building whose livelihoods are now ruined, what we can do. And that is the kind of content I want to spend my next couple of months making, and making that all available for free. And what I want to say is, this is a little dark, but like, we are living in a world with unprecedented weather events happening. You don't know if you're going to be affected. I was in New York City. That's where I lived when Hurricane Sandy came.
Yeah.
So you never know, like this might be you. And I think that if joining Money Bootcamp and helping me to have that time and space to create a bunch of content about here's how you apply for these grants. And literally I am doing it. So this is not like a theoretical thing. This is like, this is what I got hung up on the FEMA application. This is what you need to have with you before you do it. This one you can do on your cell phone as you stand in a Wi-Fi hotspot, right?
Yeah.
All literally, I'm describing yesterday. This library will continue to exist, and it will be there for you if you have a disaster. And I hope it never happens to you. I hope you never need it. But this is really paying it forward to other, people affected by climate change. And I think it's coming, right? So we don't know that it will be us. We hope it won't. But this library will continue to exist, and I'm excited to make it exist. So that is what's driving me in the next 3 months. And I'm taking care of myself too.
I think the reality of climate change now is that even if it isn't us, we all know somebody who has been affected by climate change in a fairly significant way. And I don't see that changing. Nobody is talking about that getting better anytime soon. So I think we do need to prepare for it. So Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show. And we will see you online.
All right. Thank you so much, Patty. Really, this storm has taught me never to miss a chance to say I love you, and I'm going to say it. I really love you. Thank you so much.
I love you too.
Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.